The United States is chock full of places people are dying to visit, and even more that want to move. Then there's Pennsylvania, who is one of the fastest shrinking states in the nation. In fact, over 53% of all Pennsylvanians who moved this last year moved out of the state. Between unemployment, high taxes, and crime infestation, I mean, who could blame them? Bitter job outlook. Things have not always been so bleak in Pennsylvania, though. In fact, it was once considered a land of opportunity, so much so that Hershey's Chocolate chose it over all the other states to become a home, sweet home for its factory employees. Today, though, the job outlook in Pennsylvania is anything but sugar and spice, and it's definitely nothing nice. With a 7.4% unemployment rate, Pennsylvania's jobless population continues to skyrocket. Cities like Scranton have been hit especially hard in the past couple years. Mass layoffs are common in the industrial sector, which were once booming. The state was even once the center of the steel industry, and jobs, well, you could look anywhere to find them. In the 1980s, the steel industry ended up collapsing, and the number of steel workers went from 90,000 to just under 44,000 in 4 short years, and the problem has yet to be ironed out. Tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs have been lost in the past decade alone. Poor Pennsylvanians. For those that do still have jobs, their income isn't anything special in the median income of Pennsylvania, which is in and around $62,000. The problem is that most citizens of Pennsylvania make way less than that. The metropolitan area of Pennsylvania alone, such as Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, do tend to get okay numbers, but many living within the Appalachian Mountains and northern parts of the state are absolutely dirt poor. 1.5 million Pennsylvanians are living in poverty, and another 3.5 million are considered poor. Only 6.6% of all households in the state are actually in the high-income bracket. It seems those who've been trying to make a living within the dying economy are giving up pretty quick. Pennsylvania is the 11th most moved-out state in the U.S., up 11 spots from last year. Number blunders. While many are dying to get out of Pennsylvania, others are dying in Pennsylvania, and even those people are having trouble with the state's constant mistakes with tracking deaths. In fact, Pennsylvania is the worst state in the country for lagging on death reports. An analysis by the CDC shows that Pennsylvania is one of the only states which doesn't actually send in death certificates within the mandatory 13-week period ordered by the federal government. When COVID-19 began and states were required to turn in their death toll numbers, Pennsylvania's death reporting delays were spotlighted, and it seemed that they're still doing much of their death registration and number crunching by hand instead of utilizing more modern technology. The count was so messed up, it fueled the fire for government mistrust and any conspiracy theories as communities and individuals were forced to wait for help. The delay in reporting is causing lots of complications for loved ones, yet nothing's being done about it. No wonder many people are leaving the state with their lives depending on it. Crime. Of course, people aren't just leaving Pennsylvania for its lack of counting skills. The crime in Pennsylvania is nothing to sing about, or, well, maybe it is. It's actually illegal to sing while in a bathtub in this state. Perhaps the real crime is living in the state where property crime affects 4 in every 1,000 people. And even though Philadelphia is known as the city of brotherly love, 40 out of every 1,000 residents experience violence, and 1 out of every 32 Philly citizens do have a property crime committed against them. If for some reason you have a weird macabre death sentence you want to carry out, then the best place, or maybe the worst place to do that, is McKees Rocks. This city takes the cake for the most shameful title of the most dangerous city in the state, as every 17 hours and 16 minutes, a crime takes place. Fire! Who wants to live in a state with a city that's been burning since 1962? Well, it all started when a fire at the Centralia Town dump spread to an underground coal mine, sending hundreds of homes and businesses up in smoke and injured scores of residents. It's been burning ever since. Eerily enough, steam and smoke from the burning coal rises from the ground to this day. The fire quickly grew out of control, and the firefighters had determined that it would be impossible to extinguish the fire. Most of the townspeople left and never returned. The zip code was even retired. Only a few stubborn souls remain to this day, exactly 7 at last count to be exact. But anyway, with all the issues that Pennsylvania has with counting its people, nobody really knows for sure. And that is for sure is that Centralia is basically a ghost town that's on fire. But hey, what else but in Pennsylvania could you expect to find but a fire that can't be put out? Cold weather. While Centralia is burning, the rest of Pennsylvania is freezing cold, and people are getting sick and tired of it. During the summer months, it's not too bad, but come wintertime, it's just ridiculous how cold it gets. On the coolest of nights, the weather usually drops to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and every 5 years or so it drops to below zero. During even the normal winters, you won't even see that temperature gauge rise above anything but freezing for weeks on end. Every winter, there is an average of about 26 inches of snow to deal with in most parts of the state, but maybe the greater Philly area, and that's all thanks to Lake Erie. In fact, you can see up to 100 inches of the white stuff. The weather is rated as being miserable 14% of the time, but we think that is quite an understatement. Pennsylvania's weather is so bad that it's sending people packing, and that's just a cold hard fact. Road construction. The winters don't just make people miserable, they make driving miserable as well. 30% of the state's roads are bad, and 18% of the bridges are structurally deficient, and most of it is due to the bad weather. It's a never-ending cycle. First, you have the road that's fixed and smoothed up, then it gets covered in snow before you know it, and after that, it's just full of cracks and potholes again. Drivers in Pennsylvania spend an average of $610 per year repairing damage, which is caused to their vehicles by the state's bad roads, which is not only enough to break them, it's literally driving them away. Natural disasters. Pennsylvania has been the site of some of the worst disasters in American history. Back in 1889, the Johnstown flood killed over 2,000 people whenever the South Fork Dam gave way due to negligence from owners. Hurricane Angie's blew through in June of '72, causing such widespread destruction that the name was retired. Over 20,000 people were forced out of their homes, not to mention casualties and property damage galore. Then there are disasters of the man-made kind, like in 1984, how a smog of fluoride from a steel mill in Denora had ended up causing 20 fatalities and many respiratory problems for 7,000 of the 14,000 people living in town. On a positive note, the clean air movement was founded due to this disaster. Unfortunately, on the other hand, though, Pennsylvania plays little part in the movement and continues to get failing grades from air quality rating organizations. 3 Mile Island was another Pennsylvania blooper that occurred in 1979 whenever a nuclear reactor meltdown was the culprit of the most significant commercial nuclear power plant accident in U.S. history. Political attitudes. Pennsylvania is a swinging state, and not necessarily in a good way. In each presidential election, it's either going to go one way, Democrat or Republican, red versus blue. There's always something going on in the Keystone State. Dems gravitate to Philly and Pittsburgh, while Republicans tend to be in the northern and central parts that are known to be conservative. There appears to be no middle ground, forcing residents to pick a side. While having a political diversity could be a positive thing, it's definitely not in Pennsylvania's case. Both opposing parties are constantly at war, and the swing state hate has poisoned Pennsylvania so much that it's becoming one of the leading causes of its own demise. The governor is Democrat, both the House and state legislature are controlled by Republicans, and then in the Senate, both a Democrat and a Republican represent, so it's kind of split right down the middle. Pennsylvania isn't just a swing state though, it's a battleground state. It holds enough votes in a political race to be a game changer, and that can only mean one thing: all-out war. Death by taxes. Living in Pennsylvania is taxing, for real. In fact, it has the second highest income tax in the nation, and in addition to that, it sports the 10th highest real estate tax. State sales tax is about 6%, but local taxes are heaped into that, some as being as high as 2%. And as if fuel costs haven't gone up enough, Pennsylvania adds insult to injury by pumping prices up so much it's earned the title as one of the third highest state for gas taxes.